The girl had a unique ability. She could see the eerie red lines extending above people's heads. This line was called the S line, where S stood for sex, symbolizing social secrets. Once someone had sex, an S line would appear above their head. As the number of intimate partners increased, the number of S lines also grew. For Hyun-Hup, this ability was not a gift, but rather a never-ending curse. When she was young and naive, Hyun-Hup once drew the red lines above her father's head, one connected to her mother, and another linked to her aunt. Her mother realized the hidden secret in the drawing, and ultimately chose to kill her unfaithful husband and escape. From that day on, Hyun-Hup understood that her ability could hurt others, so she decided to shut her mouth and close her eyes. However, nightmares continued to haunt her. To escape it all, Hyun-Hup once thought of death, but each time, she miraculously survived. It was then that she realized she couldn't die. To avoid seeing the terrifying red lines, she wore sunglasses and locked herself in the room, cutting herself off from the world. Yet, she still longed to uncover the mystery of the red lines and break the curse. But on this very day, a bizarre case gave her the chance to uncover the truth. A single woman living alone was murdered in her home. Strangely, the killer left no trace at the crime scene. This tricky case put Jiwuk in a tough spot. The only clue was that a witness had seen a man wearing a helmet entering the apartment. Jiwuk decided to follow this lead and investigate further. Meanwhile, a reporter was covering the case downstairs from the victim's apartment. A suspicious helmeted man caught Hyun-Hup's attention. People with just one red line were as rare as those with hundreds. Moreover, that man seemed to be eavesdropping at a crime scene. Just then, the sound of a motorcycle roared from downstairs. Hyun-Hup saw the suspicious man enter the female neighbor's house. Hee-won was a friendly neighbor who always greeted Hyun-Hup warmly and sometimes gave her fruits. So Hyun-Hup quickly pulled out her phone and called the police. She had just mentioned the helmeted man's location when she accidentally saw their intimate moment. It turned out they were a couple. Hyun-Hup froze for a moment, then hung up, but as a new red line appeared, she fell back into the painful hallucinations. The next day, Jiwuk received a call from a colleague, learning that someone had mentioned the man with the helmet in a police call. However, the police had never revealed any details about the suspect. Coincidentally, Jiwuk lived across the street from Hyun-Hup. He immediately went to her place to learn more. Through the peephole, Hyun-Hup was stunned. This was the first time she had seen so many red lines on a person up close. Although Jiwuk was a cop, he was a notorious playboy. He often had one-night stands with female colleagues, but never engaged in any serious relationships. At that moment, the male neighbor upstairs happened to come downstairs. He explained that Hyun-Hup was famous for a recluse and wouldn't open the door. Jiwuk didn't give up. He kept persuading Hyun-Hup to provide a witness statement. Hyun-Hup opened the door a crack and said she had called 112 by accident. She briefly described what had happened the night before and quickly shut the door. Jiwuk was left puzzled by her odd behavior. That evening, Hyun-Hup heard the sound of a motorcycle again. This time, the helmeted man entered her building. Hyun-Hup saw that he only had one red line above his head. He wasn't the same man who had gone to the female neighbor's house last night. Apart from the recent case, there had been 3 consecutive murders in the area. Dong-sik discovered that all 3 victims had a math teacher named Oh Young in their social circle. Jiwuk immediately recognized him as the man who lived upstairs from Hyun-Hup. This coincidence seemed too suspicious, so Dong-sik decided to visit Oh Young. He rang the doorbell for a long time but found that the door was unlocked. Cautiously, he stepped inside. Unexpectedly, the entire room was covered in eerie red. Dong-sik quickly contacted Jiwuk, unaware that Oh Young was hiding in the darkness. A sudden attack caught Dong-sik completely off guard. After dealing with the intruder, Oh Young put on his helmet and muttered that there was only one left. Hyun-Hup heard footsteps and immediately went to the window, only to find that the helmeted man's red line connected to the female neighbor's house. She immediately grabbed a knife, ready to go outside. However, the outside world was too unfamiliar to her. She grew increasingly uneasy and eventually fainted from a panic attack. Meanwhile, Oh Young arrived at Hee-won's house. She had thought it was her boyfriend, only to realize it was her ex. Seeing the 10 red lines above her head, Oh Young was filled with rage. He decided to redeem his promiscuous ex-girlfriend in his own way. Hyun-hoop appeared just in time and warned him to stop immediately. However, Oh Young easily grabbed the knife and stabbed her in the abdomen. At that moment, Jiwuk arrived downstairs. Noticing the sunglasses Hyun-hoop had left behind, he immediately sensed something was wrong. He entered Hyun-hoop's residence and sure enough saw Oh Young not far away, continuing his malicious acts. Thanks to her supernatural ability, Hyun-hoop's wound quickly healed. She struggled to crawl toward Oh Young and plunged the knife into his foot, while Jiwuk fired his gun in support. In his final moments, Oh Young mumbled that the line was disappearing. This made Hyun-hoop realize that this man, like her, could see the red line. She recalled the scene where Oh Young frantically picked up his glasses and realized that the problem might be with those glasses. This experience was significant for Hyun-hoop. The gratitude from the female neighbor made her feel, for the first time, that her ability might actually be able to save someone. Just then, a mysterious text arrived. It said, "I can see the same world you see. Come to Ark High School." As Jiwuk was writing his report, he felt that Oh Young's motive for murder wasn't convincing enough. Moreover, he kept mumbling about redemption while committing the murders. To uncover the truth, Jiwuk visited Oh Jung's home. He was shocked to find that the walls were covered in tangled red lines. Then, he went to a bar where Oh Jung often visited for his investigation. The bartender revealed that Oh Young was a regular but behaved strangely. He often muttered numbers as though he was counting, which led to frequent conflicts with others. The bartender also mentioned that Oh Young always wore glasses. Jiwuk took note of these details. Before leaving, he couldn't resist having some fun with a pretty girl. The next day, Jiwuk carefully looked at Oh Young's photo and noticed he indeed wore glasses. Strangely, the glasses were missing from the evidence box. Jiwuk then went to the high school where Oh Jung had worked and met a beautiful teacher named Kyu-jin. She was a popular figure at the school, loved by the students. When Kyu-jin learned that her former colleague was a serial killer, she was deeply shocked. Jiwuk asked if Oh Jung had always worn glasses. Kyu-jin thought for a moment and said she had never seen him wear them. After the investigation, Jiwuk couldn't help but gaze at the beautiful teacher's chest. Kyu-jin, unguarded, buttoned her blouse in front of him. The atmosphere between them grew somewhat ambiguous. After thinking it over for an entire night, Hyun-hoop finally decided to step out of the house and seek the truth. Following the instructions in the text message, she transferred to Ark High School. In her new class, she encountered a familiar face, Sun-A. The two had been middle school classmates. At school, Sun-A was an outcast. Hae-young often teamed up with a group of delinquent girls to bully Sun-A and extort money from her. Coincidentally, Sun-A was Jiwook's niece. When she was young, her parents tragically died in a car accident, and since then, Jiwook had taken on the responsibility of raising her. However, because Jiwook was always busy with work, their relationship was not close. Sun-A had never confided in her uncle about the bullying at school. One day, the blackboard was filled with malicious drawings mocking Sun-A, and Hae-young even publicly read aloud a love letter Sun-A had written. Soon, the two of them were in a violent fight. Fortunately, Kyu-jin appeared just in time. She pushed Hae-young away and stood up for Sun-A in front of everyone. After school, Sun-A found a pair of glasses in her locker, glowing with light. Out of curiosity, she put them on and was shocked to see a red line above her head. Even more horrifying, hundreds of red lines spread out above her uncle's head. Panicked, Sun-A rushed out of the house, only to find that the outside world was also filled with red lines. But soon, she understood the meaning behind them. The next day, Sun-A confidently walked through the school campus. Even though the students were still minors, they had already tasted forbidden fruit. Just then, Sun-A noticed one of Hae-young's red lines was connected to the Korean teacher, Mr. Bang. It turned out they had been secretly maintaining an inappropriate teacher-student relationship. Sun A came up with a perfect revenge plan. When she was bullied again, she no longer feared it and warned Ha-young to stop. Ha-young lost face and continued to beat her. At that moment, Hyun-hup appeared and stopped the bullying. Ha-young decided to teach the new transfer student a lesson, but Hyun-hup threatened to jump off the building with her. Ha-young turned pale with fear and promised never to bother them again. However, Sun A didn't give up on her revenge. She secretly followed Ha-young and took photos of her meeting with the teacher at a motel. When Ha-young saw the photo, she showed no fear and still spent a sweet night with the teacher. Afterwards, she texted Sun A saying that she was still a minor and only the teacher would be punished. Sun A sneered and decided to shift her revenge target to the teacher. The next day, she sent the photo to the teacher and demanded he prepare 20 million won. She told Hyun-hup that she planned to run away with the money because she felt her uncle didn't care about her. Since receiving the photo, the teacher had been filled with anxiety every day. He could only vent his anger on Ha-young. Ha-young guessed that he had also received the photo and said it was all Sun A's doing. Besides the Korean teacher, other teachers had also received photos of their affairs. With the secrets in hand, Sun A gradually became popular among her classmates. She even stole Ha-young's boyfriend. Hyun-hup noticed Sun A's change and suspected that the glasses she was wearing were the ones Oh-young wore when committing the murder. So, she confessed the secret of the red line and warned Sun A that continuing to wear those glasses would bring fatal danger. But Sun A ignored her. She was already immersed in the thrill of spying on others' secrets. That night, the Korean teacher messaged Sun A, saying he had the money ready. Sun A eagerly went shopping with her new boyfriend first. Unexpectedly, Ha-young had been following them. Earlier, she had overheard Sun A and Hyun-hup's conversation in the bathroom and learned the secret of the red line. So when Sun A wasn't paying attention, she stole her bag. When Ha-young put on the glasses, she saw the same red world full of desire. But then, she disappeared into the night. When Sun A realized her glasses were gone, she panicked. She called Hyun-hup to ask if she had stolen them. Hyun-hup was confused, but soon learned that Sun A was rushing to school. When they met, the Korean teacher begged Sun A to let him go. He claimed his wife was about to give birth to their second child, and he couldn't lose his job. But Sun A didn't feel sorry for him. When she was bullied by Ha-young, the teacher did nothing. At that moment, the teacher received a text, learning that his wife had discovered his affair with a student. He angrily questioned Sun A about why she was doing this. By the time Hyun-hup arrived at the school, she witnessed Sun A falling from the rooftop. She helplessly knelt on the ground, only to see the red line fading away. Jiwuk received the news and immediately rushed to the hospital. However, Sun A fell into a coma due to her severe injuries. Although the school had classified the incident as a suicide, Hyun-hup always felt there was something more to it. The next day, she went to the school rooftop in search of clues. Suddenly, a girl named Woo-rai appeared. She said Sun A was a tough one and would never easily choose to commit suicide, and Ha-young, who bullied Sun A every day, skipped the school the very next day. Just as Hyun-hup was feeling confused, she noticed Jun-sun was wearing glasses. Upon inspection, it turned out to be just an ordinary pair of glasses. Meanwhile, English teacher Jung-woo picked up a pair of glasses and asked his colleague whose they were. Kyujin looked at the glasses and gave a strange smile. She then told Jung-woo that the glasses suited him well. Driven by curiosity, Jung-woo put them on. Instantly, countless red lines appeared before his eyes. Just then, Jiwuk entered with a red broom on his head. He had come to investigate the case of his niece. On the day of the incident, Sun A had uploaded a photo with a boy. After some questioning, the boy revealed that after they took the photo, Sun A suddenly ran out like a madwoman, as if searching for something she had lost. Jiwuk reviewed the surveillance footage from that day and saw Ha-young secretly taking Sun A's bag. Not long after, Ha-young suddenly put on a pair of glasses. Unfortunately, no further clues were captured in the subsequent footage. Since there was no sign of foul play, the authorities insisted on closing the case as a suicide. Jiwuk still suspected his niece had been murdered. Unfortunately, Sun A's phone couldn't be unlocked. Meanwhile, the photo of the Korean teacher and Ha Young were uploaded to a forum. This caused an immediate uproar at school. However, Jiwuk soon found the body of the teacher in a parking lot. A suicide note in the car stated that he was ashamed because the scandal had been exposed. Jiwuk deduced that the teacher had been dead for at least 3 days. The car had been parked in such a visible location, but wasn't discovered until 3 days later. Clearly, this wasn't the original crime scene. Jiwuk suspected the killer had first staged a suicide, then leaked the photos to add credibility. He was now more certain that his niece had likely been caught up in a conspiracy. So, he went to Hyun-Hyup, hoping to get more clues from her. Hyun-Hyup, however, asked if he had seen Sunay's glasses. Confused, Jiwuk wanted to ask more about the glasses. Hyun-Hyup didn't answer directly. She only promised that if Jiwuk could find them, she would reveal all the secrets to him. Neither of them knew that Jung-woo was already wearing those mysterious glasses. It wasn't until he saw the red line connecting the sister and her husband that he fully understood the meaning of the red line. Oh Taeseok suddenly asked him why he had canceled the wedding. Jung-woo confessed that he had discovered his fiancée was cheating on him with his friend. Upon hearing the word cheating, his sister's face turned pale. But Oh Taeseok was excited and praised Jung-woo for doing well. After dinner, the two went for a walk downstairs. Suddenly, Jung-woo noticed that the red line above Oh Taeseok's head went through the elevator. More suspiciously, when going upstairs, Oh Taeseok instinctively pressed the button for the 4th floor. Jung-woo was certain that his sister's husband was indeed cheating. He deliberately pressed the 4th floor button and found the red line connected to an apartment at the end of the hallway. The next day, Jung-woo went to the office and accidentally discovered his colleague's secrets. Only Kyu-jin remained pure, but she always seemed to be hiding something. Jung-woo asked Kyu-jin what she would do if she discovered someone she knew was having an affair. Kyu-jin smiled and replied that she would tell everything. After work, Jung-woo found a misdelivered package at the doorstep. His sister explained that the package came from Unit 401, as they often filled out the wrong address. Jung-woo grew suspicious, so he took the package to Unit 401. Sure enough, a beautiful woman lived there. Jung-woo found her letter in the mailbox and learned her name. Years ago, his family had fallen apart due to his father's affair, so he hated unfaithful people. One night, Jung-woo followed his sister's husband to a hotel. As expected, Oh Tae-seok was having dinner with the female neighbor and even gave her an expensive necklace. Jung-woo called Oh Tae-seok, but he lied, claiming he was at a conference out of town. Jung-woo suppressed his anger and quietly noted their room number. In the hallway, the red lines tangled together like a spider's web. Just as Oh Tae-seok finished showering, Jung-woo dragged him out. When confronted, Oh Tae-seok said this did no good for his sister. Jung-woo was angry at his brazen attitude and warned him to end things with the woman that day. But the next day, Oh Tae-seok still hadn't come home. Jung-woo scrolled through the female neighbor's social media account and found out she was pregnant. Furious, he rushed to his sister's house. However, there had been a car accident downstairs and the driver was his sister. She repeatedly asked Jung-woo why he had done this. By the time Oh Tae-seok arrived, he completely ignored his wife and instead cared about whether the mistress was hurt. Jung-woo angrily punched him and scolded him for being worse than an animal. At that moment, his sister suddenly shouted and stopped him. In despair, she said that the man was not her husband. She was the one who had destroyed someone else's family. Last night, Oh Tae-seok had handled the mistress as agreed, but his sister couldn't accept being abandoned, which caused her to lose control. It turned out that what was seen with the eyes wasn't always the truth. After that unexpected encounter, Jun-sun gradually became attracted to the special girl. Watching Hyun-Hyup troubled by nightmares, Jun-sun decided to take her to a secret place to relax. Hyun-Hyup walked to the pool and couldn't resist jumping in. Underwater, there was no red line, only peace. Afterwards, Jun-sun kindly draped a jacket over her. In that moment, Hyun-Hyup felt warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. She let down her guard and revealed the secret about the red line. To her surprise, Jun-sun chose to believe her. He thought she had no reason to lie and even considered her extraordinary. Late at night, while Hyun-Hyup recalled Jun-sun's comforting words, she suddenly noticed a red line growing above her head. Meanwhile, Jiwuk was still searching for the person who harmed his niece. The prime suspect, Ha-young, vanished without a trace, and the Korean teacher also had severe acrophobia, making it impossible for him to push Sun-ae off the roof. Jiwuk decided to search Sun-ae's room for clues and accidentally found a diary. It was filled with drawings of the red world she saw when wearing glasses. At this point, Hyun-Hyup had no choice but to confess the secret about the glasses and the red line. He was skeptical because it sounded unbelievable. But if it was true, then Sun-ae's accident must be connected to those glasses. He suddenly understood why Hyun-Hyup always wore sunglasses and couldn't help but feel that her life must be tough. Out of curiosity, Jiwuk went through Hyun-Hyup's mother's case. The records mentioned that Hyun-Hyup had drawn imaginary lines to depict the scene of affair. Strangely, in the photo, Hyun-Hyup seemed to have seen something. Jiwuk then remembered that Hyun-Hyup had been investigating some mysterious events. He began to believe that her story might be true. He wanted to know if Sun-ae also had a red line. Hyun-Hyup said it was a private matter, but her reaction made Jiwuk realize that Sun-ae indeed had it. He was curious about who the red line was connected to. Hyun-Hyup said it wasn't someone in their class. Jiwuk sighed. He believed that the guy connected to Sun-ae was the one who pushed her off the roof. That night, a news report caught Hyun-Hyup's attention. A random murder, when arrested, claimed he was cleansed. She started to wonder if there was more than one pair of those mysterious glasses. Recently, Hyun-Hyup found a part-time job at a motel. Woo-ri brought Jun-sun to visit her, while also taking the opportunity to peek into the desires-filled side of the adult world. Just then, a woman with pink hair appeared and requested to check into room 206. Woo-ri immediately recognized her as Mi Seong, an employee from the school administration. Mi Seong, also wearing glasses, could see the world filled with red lines. Recently, she had developed a crush on the handsome yet lonely music teacher. One day, a beautiful melody came from the music classroom. Mi Seong was drawn to it and couldn't help but approach the melancholic man. The man was incredibly talented, yet he could never fulfill his ambitions. He saw potential in Mi Seong and encouraged her to pursue her dream of becoming an actress. Hearing the man she admired so much approve of her, Mi Seong was overjoyed. Suddenly, she noticed that the only red line the man had was connected to hers. After work, Mi Seong changed into a unique outfit and returned to the motel. Out of curiosity, Hyun-Hyup hid by the door and overheard Mi Seong's secret. To pursue her dream, Mi Seong often came to this quiet room to practice her lines and free herself. By chance, she found a pair of glasses in the room. When she put them on, she realized that the world was filled with desire, and she was perfect. All of a sudden, she became an observer of this world. That day, a new guest arrived next door. Mi Seong was thrilled because it was the music teacher she had longed for, but soon after, an actress walked into the room. She was the only woman with whom the man had ever been physically intimate. Mi Seong listened to the indescribable sounds, her heart filled with anger and jealousy. When she learned that the two would be meeting here again the next day, Mi Seong decided to stay longer. The next day, she dragged in a fire extinguisher and secretly drugged the water. When the actress arrived again, Mi Seong knocked her out from behind. She then put on the actress's clothes and dressed exactly like her. When the music teacher saw Mi Seong enter, he was shocked. She ignored his reaction, muttering about how she longed for him to fill her emptiness. Faced with this crazy woman, the man hurried to leave. Suddenly, he felt dizzy and collapsed to the floor. Mi Seong kissed her dream man greedily, only to suddenly notice the blood spreading. She intended to perform first aid, but couldn't resist releasing her suppressed desires. In despair, the man lost his life, and Mi Seong no longer felt any attachment to the world. Not long after, Hyun-Hyup discovered the trapped actress. She hurried into room 205, but it was too late. Soon, Jiwuk arrived at the scene to investigate but couldn't understand the motive behind the crime. Hyunhoop revealed that Mi Seong also wore glasses, and every time she came to the motel, she looked completely different from school. Hyunhoop warned Jiwuk again that those glasses were extremely dangerous and anyone could get involved in death because of them. Staring at his unconscious niece, Jiwuk began to believe that everything was tied to the glasses. He went back to the motel and found the glasses Mi Seong had left at the bottom of the bathtub. Out of curiosity, Jiwuk put them on and saw hundreds of terrifying red lines before his eyes. He rushed to the hospital and confirmed that Sun-A had a red line above her head. It was only then that he fully believed everything Hyunhoop had said. Jiwuk brought Sun-A's new boyfriend to the hospital, only to discover that their red lines weren't connected. He asked the boy if Sun-A had another boyfriend. The boy only remembered that Sun-A had often said she would one day kill that devilish person. He was certain that, compared to Haya Young, who bullied her, Sun-A hated that person even more. As Jiwuk returned to the police station, a student named Jina came to report a crime. She claimed that a boy had done something bad to her. The female detective asked Jina if she had ever been in an intimate relationship, and she shook her head. Jiwuk, noticing the 4 red lines above her head, couldn't understand why she was lying. To further investigate the case, Jiwuk went back to the school and once again encountered the beautiful teacher. To his surprise, Kyujin didn't have a single red line. Then, the police called in the boy accused by Jina for questioning. However, Han Yu remained unusually calm and insisted he had no interest in Jina. As Jiwuk was leaving, he ran into Hyunhoop. She demanded that he throw away the terrifying glasses immediately, but Jiwuk was already captivated by them and couldn't let go. The two argued fiercely. Kyujin tried to step in but saw Hyunhoop storm off. Jiwuk greeted her warmly and left as well. However, Kyujin smiled strangely. It turned out that, like Hyunhoop, she also had the ability to see the red lines. Jiwuk discovered that Jina had once been a trainee idol, so he visited an entertainment company. The CEO claimed that Jina was too playful. She often talked other trainees into drinking with her, or met boys. Based on these clues, Dong-sik suspected that Jina was making false accusations. The police then called in the suspect again. Han Yu said that Jina constantly pestered him and provided text messages as evidence. However, Jina had deleted all the messages. She also washed the clothes she wore on the day of the incident and didn't report it to the police until a week later. This put her in a very bad situation. When Jiwuk learned that Han Yu was about to leave, he suddenly opened the door. Strangely, Jina's red line wasn't connected to Han Yu. Seeing this, Jiwuk realized that Jina was lying. After work, Jiwuk ran into Hyunhoop downstairs at his apartment. He understood Hyunhoop's intentions, but he believed that despite the danger, the glasses could still help many people. Hyunhoop asked who he was trying to save now. Jiwuk mentioned Jina's case and explained that he used the glasses to confirm the boy's innocence. Coincidentally, Hyunhoop and Jina were classmates. She recalled that a week ago, there were no red lines above Jina's head. This clue made Jiwuk suspect something was off with the case. That night, he and Dong-sik visited Han Yu's place. The room was unusually clean, as if it had been carefully tidied up. Han Yu still remained calm and stated that when Jina got drunk that night, he simply moved her to the bed. Jiwuk noticed that the mattress didn't match the room's overall style, so he immediately went to the trash station. After searching, they found the mattress that Han Yu had thrown away. The next day, the police called Han Yu in again. Suspiciously, 4 boys looked unusually nervous. During the questioning, Han Yu admitted that Jina had insisted on drinking, so he bought alcohol from a convenience store. Jiwuk checked the surveillance footage and confirmed Han Yu's story. However, he soon spotted 4 suspicious boys. When they appeared on the footage again, each had a new red line above their heads. At school, Hyunhoop also saw that Jina's red line was connected to the 4 boys. Jiwuk called the 4 boys to the police station for individual questioning. He started with the most timid one and deliberately took him downstairs to Han Yu's building. In the tense atmosphere, The boy mistakenly thought he had been exposed and tried to escape, but it was in vain. He finally confessed the truth. It turned out that Han Yu had drugged Gina, causing her to pass out. Then he watched as the 4 boys did terrible things to her. The other 3 boys also admitted to the same facts. Jiwuk showed Han Yu the medicine bottle, forcing him to admit everything. Ridiculously, Han Yu still insisted he was innocent. Jiwuk lashed out, calling him a scumbag and swearing to make him pay for his crimes. After the case ended, Jiwuk got a call saying his father had gone missing. 10 years ago, his father fell seriously ill and had been living in a nursing home ever since. The staff said a strange woman had taken his father away. Jiwuk checked the security footage and was shocked. It was Kyujin. Right then, Kyujin sent him a photo of Sun-A. On his way to the hospital, Jiwuk asked Dong-sik to dig into Kyujin's identity. Luckily, Sun-A was safe, lying in her hospital bed. But just as Jiwuk felt relieved, he suddenly noticed her red line connected to someone in the hallway. He instantly tensed up and raised his gun. To his shock, it was his missing father. The old man staggered toward the bed, and the red line above his head linked with Sun-A's. Jiwuk could hardly believe his eyes. When he realized what was happening, rage exploded inside him. He furiously yelled at his father for doing something so horrible to Sun-A. Meanwhile, Hyun-Hup, her hands covered in blood, helplessly called Jiwuk for help. Not long ago, Hyun-Hup realized she had fallen for Jun-sun. She became curious about what it would feel like to grow a red line. So on her birthday, she decided to give herself to Jun-sun. After their intimate moment, Hyun-Hup saw her red line connected to Jun-sun. Later, Jun-sun rushed out to buy her a birthday cake. But just as Hyun-Hup was admiring her red line, she saw it slowly fading. Then came a scream. Not far away, Jun-sun collapsed in a pool of blood. Hyun-Hup broke down. She realized she was cursed. Anyone close to her would die. At that moment, the mysterious person sent another message, wishing her a happy birthday and inviting her to the room of boundary. There was also a video of Woo-ri being kidnapped. Desperate, Hyun-Hup went to Jiwuk for help and revealed a secret no one else knew. Every year on her birthday, she had been receiving a card from this mysterious person. Over time, she realized someone had been waiting for her birthday, and someday, she would be required to do something. And based on all the clues, that day was today. Jiwuk concluded that everything was Kyujin's doing, because he ran a background check on Kyujin, but nothing came up. So they went to the school and saw a classroom with the light still on. Strangely, as soon as Hyun-Hup ran into the room, Jiwuk noticed it was completely empty. It seemed like they had entered different spaces. After saving Woo-Ri, Hyun-Hup started searching the building for Jiwuk. But no matter how much they ran, they kept ending up in the same place. They had no choice but to go to the rooftop. Jiwuk also reached the rooftop, but instead of seeing the girls, he entered an airy space. Hundreds of people in white robes stood still, as if they had lost their souls. Among them was Hae-young, who had mysteriously disappeared. One woman held up a knife, saying she was ready to sever her last sin from herself. Just a month earlier, her ex had leaked a private video of them. Everyone mocked her, and their gaze pierced her like a blade. She tried to report it to the police, but was threatened by her ex. Hopeless and ashamed, she thought about ending her life. That was when Kyujin appeared and gave her a pair of glasses. The moment she put them on, she saw a completely different world. Kyujin told her that soon, people would see this red world even without the glasses. By then, the red lines above her head would become symbols of shame and scandal. Kyujin urged her to kill every man she had slept with. Only then would the red lines disappear. The woman believed her and killed her exes one by one. Sure enough, the red lines started vanishing. The woman had lost her mind completely and eliminated her last ex. Suddenly, a red light burst behind her. On the rooftop, Woo-Ri put on the glasses and instantly became a different person. She said the teacher once told her that if Hyun-Hup died, people would see the red lines without any glasses. Meanwhile, Kyujin appeared like the queen of this desire-filled world. She could even control how many red lines she had. Suddenly, all eyes locked onto Jiwuk as Kyujin whipped off the white cloth, revealing the next sinner. Jiwuk wanted to save his father, but Kyujin handed him a knife instead. Luckily, he still had a shred of reason left and aimed the knife at the true culprit. However, Kyujin easily grabbed the knife and sent his father straight to hell. Furious, Jiwuk shot at her, but like Hyun-hup, Kyujin couldn't die. She grabbed Jiwuk by the neck and admitted it was her who pushed Sun-ae off the roof. She said she did it to make Jiwuk care more about his niece. Meanwhile, Hyun-hup was in danger too. Luckily, she took off Woo-ri's glasses and crushed them. Woo-ri quickly came to her senses, but then noticed Hyun-hup's eyes had changed color. Even her blood was now floating into the air. The next second, Hyun-hup found herself in that eerie space. Seeing this, Kyujin threw Jiwuk aside without hesitation. She walked toward Hyun-hup and explained everything from the beginning. Humans long to see the red lines so they could peek into the hidden desires of others. That's why they couldn't resist the temptation of the glasses. Kyujin said Hyun-hup was born to create this world ruled by red lines. Then, she ordered her followers to surround Hyun-hup and kill her. At that critical moment, Hyun-hup's long-lost mother appeared and blocked the attack. It turned out she also received the glasses and saw her husband had cheated on her with her sister. She apologized to Hyun-hup, saying it was never her fault. Hyun-hup rushed at the real culprit in anger, but was stabbed in the stomach. Blood poured from her wound. Kyujin immediately lifted her into the air and said her death would bring to mankind the blessed eyes of God. However, Hyun-hup came back to life and stabbed Kyujin with the knife. Kyujin said it was too late, and their missions were both complete. As she fell, the followers came to their senses and fled in panic. The next moment, Hyun-hup found herself standing on the school rooftop. Jiwuk was reaching for the glasses placed at the edge. Luckily, Hyun-hup stopped him in time. She looked up at the blood-red sky, powerless to do anything. From that moment on, everyone could see the world filled with desire, and no one had any secrets anymore. The world fell into total chaos. To hide themselves, people started wearing masks and helmets, and Hyun-hup was no longer seen as a freak. Sun-ae, now fully recovered, no longer had a red line above her head. Her relationship with her uncle grew closer than ever. Not long after, Hyun-hup went to pay respects to the late Jun-sun. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice calling her name. It was Kyujin. It seemed this world of desire would never truly end.